Hi, guys. So go ahead and hopefully everyone's doing good and welcome back for the Office 360 Pulse. We are joined by Jenn this week, so Tom and I are very, very happy. We're going to actually
Yay.
have a really short update this week. Not a lot
Yes.
going on in the world of Microsoft. But Jenn, you want to kind of talk about the format that we always go over in the different topics?
Yeah, so we'll talk about what's in development. We'll talk about what has launched, what's rolling out, and then we'll talk about what is canceled. So, in development right now, um, we can talk through there. So, if anyone's got anything, I'm going to talk about the one that is my favorite, and I cannot wait until it's coming. I'm sure it is everyone's favorite, but this is going to be multi window chat for
Yeah, I
Microsoft
knew I
Teams.
wasn't going to get to do
Can
that
we
one.
get an amen? Everyone can just talk about
Amen.
how much they need it. So this is where users are going to be able to pop out an individual Teams chat conversation into a separate window to help them streamline their workflow and more easily move between ongoing conversations. I think that's the number one ask that we've all needed since Teams existed. So I'm very, 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 very excited about that. Everyone's excited about that. I think it's been in dog food for a while within Microsoft, so I've seen it in action in some of the tenants when I've been on with them, and I think it's in development status now on the roadmap, and it's saying an April release date. So April's not too far away. I mean, we're talking like a week, y'all.
Yeah.
So now that we're all working from home, this is even so much more important. So I know everyone wanted that one, but I went first. Nanner.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you really did. Well, I'm
but
going to go grab one more thing here before
go
Adam
for it,
gets
Tom.
all the geeky stuff. One thing that they're doing, which is kind of cool, is they're going to have a feature whereby you can have a Word document in Word Online, open in review mode. So when you send a link to somebody with this in open in review mode, what it basically means is they open the file, opens automatically into reviewing mode, and so you can suggest changes with the track changes feature and make comments, but it's not actually going to make untracked changes. I think that's really cool if you're doing the collaboration piece. I mean, you could make the case that, yeah, maybe you should be doing, online collaboration with the person at the same time. But this is nice if you have to send a link around to various people. They can look at it, make changes and stuff like that, but they just can't go willy-nilly and start making all the changes that they want. So I think that's going to be a really nice feature that people are going to like a lot once it gets out there.
I agree.
Cool.
So before Adam does go into the crazy geeky stuff, because that's a lot of what's in here this time, the other thing I'd say is that there's some search things coming to Outlook, iOS, and Android for Outlook around natural language searching and suggested people and actionable search results. And so I think just the human nature of just being able to easily search, and I like to say being able to search without really knowing what you're searching for, but search still getting you what you need and what you're looking for. I think that's coming more to the phone. I actually struggle with that a little bit right now. I will search for something on my phone sometimes and not be able to find it and have to go back to my desktop. And sometimes I can search for it on my desktop and can't find it, but I can search for it on my phone. So I'm very much looking for those experiences to match and kind of have that same unified experience and it just work. So I'm excited about some of those changes that they have in development. And it's all about just helping that human natural language and different things like that for queries. So
Yeah, and I actually go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I like the example that they use where you could do a search for John's phone number and actually get actionable results back. So it's, again, like Jenn said, it gets you more into natural language type searching, which we haven't done really well in the past.
Yeah, and if you're unsure what natural language searching is, because I kind of knew, but I wasn't really sure, it just means the language that people talk day to day. You don't have to get the exact wording right. It will kind of infer from what you put in there what you mean, which is really what natural language means.
it's kind of how you talk to Siri and Alexa and all of those other people.
Exactly.
Yep.
No quotes, no ors, no ands.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to mention a couple kind of nerdy admin-y things that I thought were pretty cool. One that I think is oddly relevant right now for everyone, they actually have some new Windows Virtual Desktop updates, basically easier deployment through the Azure portal, as well as Windows Virtual Desktop is now going to support the Teams client. So this is something that I know is near and dear to me and Jen's heart right now because a ton of our clients are suddenly trying to figure out how they can allow their whole organization to work from home. And that often means hurriedly doing a Windows virtual desktop deployment for them.
Most definitely.
Especially when you're in like the government or the compliance space where you have pretty strict standards on what you need. It's kind of a nightmare that, hey, all my users are going to be working from home and you maybe don't have the capital to go out and buy, several thousand laptops. So Azure or Windows Virtual Desktop is a wonderful solution. So a couple new things coming from there. A huge update. I'm not going to go into the details. If you are curious if this, strikes a chord with you, I'd encourage you to go look at the roadmap item. But they're basically rolling out changes through this week into the start of April to Microsoft Compliance Score and Compliance Manager. They go into details of everything that they're doing, but it's basically some quality of life improvements. Some small examples, they're adding new languages to it. So you can do stuff like French, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish. So not just in English, there's going to be more things you can do there. Better templates for importing and exporting stuff. They're also going to be doing stuff like, so previously when you did stuff through Compliance Manager, basically each different compliance step that you went through would have a set of actions to it, and it kind of, serially went through and said, okay, I'm going through compliance section 1, I've done everything. Now I'm going through compliance section 2 and I've done everything. Now I'm going through 3. Well, you could kind of have competing things in the different compliance sets based on what you're doing. So they're adding some intelligence to there to combining it. So if you have 3 different policies that all are doing organizational wide changes, it's combining them into one that will cover the most stringent of those sets. So that way it's one action instead of 3 actions, which is just, it makes sense and it's better. So it's kind of cool to see that. And then the last one for me is kind of a SharePoint OneDrive one, but it's something that I have a lot of experience with trying to help people for admins. It seems like oftentimes at the organizations I'm in, I kind of partner with people. So whenever I was at my previous job, when they were going through acquisitions and they were basically selling themselves, I was supporting like the venture capital firm that was talking with everything. And so like it was all hush hush. I had to sign like NDA letters and stuff. But they're basically going to allow you to delete a document that's basically checked out, which this was always a pain for me all the time. It seemed when people are first getting into SharePoint or first getting into like, OneDrive or Teams, they don't really know what they're doing. Someone would like open up a document, which would check it out, and then they'd forget about it and it'd be in this perpetual state of like locked and open somewhere. And the only way I knew how to go through and do it is as an admin, go in there and force check it back in, check it out myself, check it back in, and then that way it was probably doable. Well, now if someone has it, open and they don't know where it is, you can basically just go through and delete it. And so you can basically resolve the problem. You can delete the version that they're going through and editing, and then theoretically go in and restore that to whatever the most current version was. So nice to see that they're basically giving an end user solution to this, where you're not going to have to go and talk to an admin every time. So even though it's kind of SharePointing and Teams for me, this is something that is near and dear to my heart. So I figured I'd throw it out there.
Go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, very cool. We have got one thing in the rolling out category this week. So does anyone want to take it? I'll take it if no one does, but go ahead, Tom,
I'd be happy to read the details, knowing that I know nothing about this whatsoever. The description
I know about it.
Okay, then go for it then.
Okay, so query alterations using SPFX for custom results pages. So this means your SharePoint developers can build custom search pages. That's all that means. So they're putting some things into the SharePoint framework, which is how you can do custom development. So your SharePoint developers using the SharePoint framework now actually have some options to build a custom results page. So it's still not taking us back to all of the customizations we can make with SharePoint, but now our developers, so our ones that need syntax and semicolons, can build custom search pages. I fully believe. Yeah, Corey's doing it.
I was going to say, I bet Corey really likes this one.
Yep. And you know what? We're still going to get there. So those of us that don't like syntax and semicolons can do it. But this is the first start, right? So using all of the richness in Microsoft Search, which is now in SharePoint Search, we can now customize the search result pages. So there's going to be guidelines and things you have to follow. But those that are SharePoint developers using the SharePoint framework now have an option to customize some of those pages. So that's something that is rolling out. I know everyone has been waiting for that one. So I know people are super, super excited about that one. So I've heard a lot about that one as Tom mentioned, Corey is my husband, and he's a developer who does a lot of this with SharePoint, and he's been following that, and he speaks a lot at the conferences about this topic, and I think he's been waiting for this one for years. So I know he's very, very excited about it. So very, very exciting. So then we have the launch category. We have a couple of very, very cool ones. And since I stole from Tom multiple times, I'm going to let him go first and not steal the ones that I know he's going to love. So go ahead, Tom.
I will just take one of them. I will leave you to choose the other two.
You can take them. Take two. Take two.
Okay, take two.
Oh no, someone's going to take mine. No, I'm kidding. No one wants to do mine. Go ahead, Tom.
So this is one that I don't think I had seen before, but now that it's launched, it means basically it should be out there now, which I have to go check. But that is, there are now gosh, maybe you should take it, Jen. Modern list templates for issue, contacts, and data sheets. So the way, and exactly, those had not had a modern UI version to them. So if you wanted to use them, you would have to shift back into classic mode, which is a pain in the neck to be able to do that. The other thing that I find really interesting on here, which I think excites me even more, and that is the native UI for a general form in SharePoint now supports multi-line text fields with the append changes to existing text. That is something we use a lot for audit trails in InfoPath. Yes, I said the I word. To be able to have that feature in a SharePoint default form means that there's going to be a lot less things that I have to look at and go, okay, how are we going to get this to work in Power Apps? How am I going to have to support it in InfoPath because I really can't replicate that somehow? This is going to make it really nice. So this right here is the one feature in the launch category that just really floats my boat. Second one, which is kind of cool, in that I'll go ahead and take bulk approvals. You can have the column totals, Jen. So if you have multiple items that you need to approve or reject at the same time, used to be you couldn't do that in bulk. Now you're going to be able to. So next time you have some approvals there, try selecting multiple items and see if you have that option available to you. It should be launched and rolled out to all the clients now.
Yeah. And the one that Tom was mentioning was column totals. So this used to be if you would go into a list and you would set it to show column totals, it would take you back to the classic view. That was really annoying to a lot of people because they're trying to go to this modern experience. And then in some of these lists, you'd have a classic view. And there is nothing more confusing to users than having some classic, some modern. Why is list A different than list B when they're the same thing? One just has column totals. So now you can have column totals in your modern view without having to go back to classic, which is just a great change. We really want to get everything to where it's modern. There's only one way to teach users how to interact with the list. Modern is a much simpler, we talked a lot about natural language, but I think modern goes with our natural movements. It's a lot easier to just navigate through a modern list, even without having to have training. If you get a little bit of training, you can kind of fumble your way through it because the most common tasks kind of bubble up. So I'm very excited to see column totals there, because that's meaning some of the blockers that are keeping you from going to modern are now going away. Because what I was seeing happening is, well, if I have to go to modern for this list, I'm going to go to modern for all lists because I don't want it to be different for my users. So as we see these things come away, the modern blockers are going away. So very, very excited about that. All right, this last one, it looks like Adam.
It's got Adam all over it.
Yeah, so this has a whole bunch of technical jargon in it. We'll just kind of cut through all of that. So this is for Office 365 Germany, GCC High, and DoD. So this is functionality coming to some of the more strict or more regulated Office 365 tenants. You actually already should have this if you're a normal Office 365 user. But they're basically rolling out what they call access to crucial events and advanced audit. Basically what this means is as you're going through and running Mailbox audit, there's a specific action that they will now track in Office 365 Germany, GCCI, and DoD. It's what they call the mail items accessed. Without going too deep into it, basically if an action is taken that theoretically gives the person the ability to see mail items, it's going to trigger this action, or it's going to trigger this audit log. So what this really matters is, say, bad actor A goes through and compromises your CEO or your, department head's mailbox. Well, they could basically just go in and say, I now have the user's, email address and password. I'm going to just set up a client and download all their mail. And Modern Exchange, that basically won't alter anything on the server, but it will give that person a copy of all the messages. So whether they ran in and actually viewed the individual messages or not doesn't really matter. What matters is that you need to be aware that theoretically all the mail you have in that mailbox is now fundamentally compromised. And so what you oftentimes see now when we're going to the bigger side on security is something like social engineering. If someone goes and gets access to a user's mailbox, sure, sometimes they just do nefarious things. Sometimes they send out emails to that person. But the bigger play, and what you're starting to see from security individuals a lot, is they will go through that mail and look for opportunities for social engineering to exploit. So they will go in there and they will figure out, okay, well, who is this person interacting with? What are they going through and doing? What's the type of people that they do? They'll go through and see things like, oh, I can see in past email, this person has been able to email someone and get in the release of money for something going on. So they're going to then go through and copy the same type of text and format and make the request look as legitimate as possible to try to social engineer it. So realistically, what this is really doing is giving you a flag to let you know, hey, it's gone through. This has happened. The user's email is compromised. You need to be aware of it. So pretty cool from a security standpoint, some of the stuff that they're doing. So happy to see it coming out. And they note that this is the first crucial event that they are rolling out for the advanced audit. You'll see more stuff come like this. But again, really probably important that you know that, hey, my user's email was compromised. So theoretically, any of the content, even if the compromise was only for 5 minutes, everything in that email could theoretically be compromised because it could have downloaded a copy.
Yep. Makes total sense. Well, cool. Well, the last category we have today is, of course, canceled. There are 2 items in there, but they really don't matter because they were canceled because they're duplicates of other items. So we can just skip over them as if they don't matter. So there we go. We're easy. So that is the pulse for this week. Not a ton of updates, but again, understanding everything that's going on right now. Microsoft has increased their Teams usage by, I think, 40% in the last couple of weeks. So I think it's quite, I think 40% was the number. It was crazy, a number.
I know yesterday they came out with a new number saying that it's like now 50 million users, where it seemed like just lately it had been 25 million. So yeah, it's crazy. And good for them. They're handling it very well. So I know they're very, very busy as they're adjusting to working from home, as well as still bringing us features, as well as keeping everything working and running, as well as helping all of their customers now adopt working at home as well. So as we're kind of going through these new periods. So it's great to see all of this kind of happening and coming together at a time that we don't, new to us. This has never really happened before. Can I toss one other thing out there, Jen?
Of course.
One thing that came out today that people should be aware of is Microsoft's been a little on the active side, rightfully so, and good to see, about being able to scale back some of the things that they have happen so that you don't spend a whole lot of time getting refreshes every 15 seconds, where in reality, maybe we should be getting them like every minute or so, because it will take the pressure off of everything that's going on. So I would definitely have people look at the latest Message Center announcement that came out that basically said with OneNote, and these are all temporary, they'll go back once they get everything scaled up or things start to go back to quote unquote normal. OneNote and Teams will be read-only for commercial tenants, excluding EDU. Users can go to OneNote for the web for editing a OneNote. Download size and sync frequency of file attachments has been changed. And then there's a URL that you can go to get some other related OneNote things, which is the aka.ms/notes updates. SharePoint, they're rescheduling specific backend operations for regional evening and weekend business hours. Impacted capabilities include migration, DLP, and delays in file management after uploading a new file, video, or image, and reduced video resolution for playback videos. And then in Stream, they're doing people timeline has been disabled for newly uploaded videos. Pre-existing videos will not be impacted. And meeting recording video resolution has now been adjusted to 720p instead of, the higher resolutions that a lot of people work with. So just keep that in mind if you start seeing some odd things happen where things aren't happening
Yeah.
as quick as you expected. Microsoft is being really conscious of saying, okay, how can we scale back some of these little nice to haves and make it to where everybody's getting the essential services that they need? Because let's face it, I don't think any of us could have taken our entire infrastructure and basically scaled it up 100% in like 3 weeks. It just wouldn't happen. Microsoft, in my estimation, has done a really good job in handling an incredible situation, and I like that they're taking these steps.
Yeah, I actually have two clients that for whatever reason had experiences or tried other platforms outside of Teams going into the last 2 weeks, and both of them had pretty major issues and ended up pivoting to Teams after struggling with the platforms that they're going through and using. And I think that really speaks to the power of having a company the size and with the resources that Microsoft has. Because I don't blame the other companies at all. It has to be pretty daunting if the only thing you do is video chat and suddenly you have a 80% increase in your user base. Microsoft is just in a unique situation that they are so big and have so many resources that they have the ability to pivot. I wanted to add one final thing. Stay home, take care of yourselves, be safe. Me, Tom, and Jen are all we already worked from home, but we're all staying home. We're trying not to go out and stuff. So take care of yourself, be safe, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
y'all.
Bye, guys.